Hello friends, this is an introduction to the YouTube channel Prolife Andrew. Many people are visiting for the first time, so let me answer many of your frequently asked questions so that you know who I am and the reason for these videos. Yes, I am a baptized member in good standing of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. No, I did not grow up with an Adventist family or friends. I learned about this when I was in prison. At the age of 16 years old, I was arrested by the police for 7 kidnappings and armed robberies and sentenced to adult prison from 1995 until 2008. While in prison, someone gave me a Bible that changed my life, and I later learned about the 3 angels' messages and the Adventist Church through the radio. My favorite program was Bible Answers Live with Pastor Doug Batchelor. Several years later, Adventist volunteers came to the prison and offered Bible studies, so I was able to learn more. Because my life changed so much, the governor, who later became the United States ambassador to China, granted to me a commutation and set me free early in the year 2005. And I tell that amazing story in more detail in a separate video. Please see the link down below. Immediately upon my release, I joined the church and got involved in outreach and volunteer mission projects in many different countries throughout Central and South America, East Africa, and throughout Southeast Asia, where I have volunteered in refugee camps, AIDS hospitals, orphanages, leper colonies, and prison ministries, etc. So yes, I am very supportive of the Adventist Church, and yes, in a good way, I've been to prison more times after becoming a Christian than before. Yes, I am married. My wife is a licensed, practicing OB-GYN physician who has worked in both Adventist and government hospitals for many years. My wife is a very caring, very loving doctor who has many times faced situations where there is an emergency and the mother's life may be at risk. So my wife does everything humanly possible to save both lives. It is never necessary to deliberately, to intentionally kill a little boy or girl to save the mother. My wife has also faced situations where the baby has a severe congenital deformity like anencephaly, where the baby is missing part of the brain. My wife, of course, does not kill the child. And do you know why? Because you can't kill somebody just because the child is not perfect. That is eugenics, and that is wrong. Next question. Yes, I completely affirm all 28 fundamental beliefs, and as I have stated repeatedly, despite the problem of abortion, yes, I do believe this is God's church, and I am very glad to be a member. Yes, I do return a full and consistent tithe, and I give my offerings to support Adventist evangelism and missions. I do consider myself an expert on the topic of tithing, and I have produced a whole series of videos on that topic. See the link down below. So yes, you can now say that you know a former thief and armed robber who loves returning tithe and offerings. And I'm happy to report that because of my videos, many people are returning tithe to the Adventist Church. No, I do not belong to any offshoot group. No, I do not support any offshoot beliefs. I am totally mainstream Seventh-day Adventist. Now, how did I get so involved with abortion? Again, I have a whole video on that explaining the story in more detail, but the short answer is that I was oblivious to the abortion issue until about the year 2015-2016. Like most other people in our church, I was very glad to be an Adventist, and I simply assumed that a church so strong on smoking, alcohol, and the Fourth Commandment would certainly tell the truth about the Sixth Commandment. Unfortunately, like many others, I was heartbroken and disappointed to learn about the sad history of our church, a history of greed, lies, fraud, and murder. And like many others, I felt betrayed and deceived and lied to. After contacting church leaders and evangelists and teachers and administrators, I was disappointed to learn that everybody knew about this problem but didn't want to say anything. So I decided enough is enough. We can't call ourselves the Remnant Church while we officially support killing children. That is crazy. People for years have told me, Andrew, you have an amazing testimony. You were in prison, but you learned about the Sabbath truth. But then they get upset when I protest the killing of children, the thinking that the fourth commandment is so important to the exclusion of the sixth commandment. That is a dangerous fanaticism. That is a very twisted, demented, unbiblical way of thinking, and that not only harms children, but damages the reputation of our church. This issue needs to be dealt with in a straightforward, honest fashion and put away. So in the year 2017, I decided to start a channel documenting the history and facts and refuting the false claims. And yes, prior to making the videos, I contacted church leaders repeatedly and continue to do so. And at last count, I have written at least 1,100 or 1,200 physical letters to church leaders at all levels protesting this problem. This does not include countless emails, phone calls, and personal face-to-face interviews. One reason that this channel is so important is because it documents that people are aware of this problem, that church members have complained. It is well documented that leadership is very well aware of this problem. Nobody can say, oh, I didn't know. And as I have stated repeatedly, I don't want to make these videos. I hate this topic. Let me say that again. I do not want to make these videos. I hate this topic. It is very depressing. I'd much rather be doing something else with my time. But if people are going to publicly defend violently hurting children, then someone needs to say something. To those of you who are new to this topic, in order to understand why Adventists, especially leadership, talk about abortion the way that they do, it is essential, it is crucial to know the history. In 1988, Loma Linda University hosted an international conference on abortion, and a research paper was presented, The Wisdom of Solomon, the General Conference Abortion Decision, 1970-71. This was later published as an abridged version in the official church publication, Ministry Magazine, right here. But you have to read the entire unabridged version. Another good resource is Pro What? Adventists and Abortion by Dr. Ronald Lawson, presented at the meeting of the Society for the Scientific Study of Religion. I was also privileged to sit down and interview Dr. Martin Weber, who served as an editor for Ministry Magazine and a voting member of the General Conference Executive Committee, which approved the 1992 Guidelines on Abortion. He was also a member of the General Conference Ministerial Association and a member of the President's Council. However, if you don't want to read all of these papers and just want a short summary, here it is. The Adventist Church was officially founded in 1863, which interestingly was in the middle of a nationwide campaign to outlaw abortion. Due to the advances in technology establishing that a new human life begins at conception, the American Medical Association, led by Dr. Horatio Storer, led the Physicians' Crusade Against Abortion, which successfully resulted in abortion being outlawed in every state of the USA. Adventist pioneers publicly condemned abortion as child murder and infanticide as an appalling and enormous evil, that it should be made infamous and criminal. Official church journals said that the medical profession has taken a noble stand. As guardians of human life, they are compelled to do so. Society owes a debt of gratitude to who? To Dr. Horatio Storer. Adventist pioneers publicly supported anti-abortion legislation, and they openly condemned other denominations who did support it. Fast forward to the 1960s, during what is known as the sexual revolution, laws and attitudes were being changed. Abortion, which was illegal, was now becoming legal in the USA, and the Adventist hospitals in the USA wanted to cash in. This is a documented historical fact. Adventists wanted to make money from abortion, however, they knew that church members would not accept this, so they kept it a secret until the mid-1980s. That's when evangelicals and Catholics began protesting Adventist support and practice of abortion on demand. And when these secrets got exposed in the international media, like the Washington Post, church leaders became creative and began to claim that killing little boys or girls is a sacred religious freedom that must be protected. This is demonic, but Adventist leadership are so serious about this belief that in 1989 they appealed to the Supreme Court to defend killing children as a religious liberty. Do you see this name right here? You can go right now to the official archives, look up the official yearbook. He's listed right here in black and white as the official legal counsel for the General Conference. These are all documented facts, and this is why Adventists today, especially in North America and church leadership, say the things that they do. That is a brief summary of the history. In 2019, amidst growing criticism, the church revisited the position on abortion and made repeated promises that the new position would be, quote, biblical. However, when church leaders like Doug Batchelor pointed out the loophole that allowed for abortion and the complete lack of biblical support, we were told that people like Doug Batchelor were wrong because of so many suspicions. Pastor Mark Finley from the GC published a video claiming that suspicions were not warranted and that, oh, don't worry, all is well. However, several months later, the General Conference got caught abusing the very loophole that they said was not a problem when, without any announcement, they quietly published their protocol allowing abortion for, read it for yourself, a mother's, quote, mental health, the exact same loophole used in Roe v. Wade to allow abortion on demand. The outrage and anger from within the church for being lied to again was so bad that the GC had to immediately delete the protocol. Sorry, that page cannot be found. This was particularly upsetting because it reveals that nothing had changed. It was the same pro-abortion language, and since that time, there has been no explanation and no accountability. So for over 50 plus years, it has been cover-up, lies, and deception. And if you think that's bad, look at this. The official dictionary of the church and the official books, What Adventists Believe, published by the General Conference, claim that you are not a living human being until after you are born. We Adventists teach that a soul is a living human being, but that, read it for yourself, a new soul comes into existence whenever a child is born. This is some pagan, science-denying, Bible-denying 10th century superstition. The official books of the Adventist Church, What We Believe, published by the GC, literally claim in black and white that living human children in the womb are not alive until after they are born, which is a complete rejection of not only established medical scientific fact, but also of the Bible that defines the unborn as living human children. This is, of course, completely absurd and unbiblical and indefensible, yet these are the official teachings published by the General Conference. For those who are new to this topic, it is important to note that the church is, in a very general sense, a worldwide church, of which the North American division only represents about 6%. It was the North Americans who brought abortion into our church. It was the Americans who kept this a secret, and as has been documented, they stacked the committees with Americans because they knew that the world church opinion was much more stronger against abortion than in the USA, and it was the Americans who gave the Adventist Church the false teaching that killing children is a religious freedom. And of course, it has been the Americans and the GC who have never allowed the world church to vote on this issue because you know, and they know, and I know what the outcome would be. A great example of the massive hypocrisy is that when African Adventists in Rwanda killed thousands of innocent people in our hospital there in 1994, they were publicly condemned and shamed in the strongest language, and church leaders said that they should go to prison. But when American Adventists have killed thousands of innocent children then in our hospitals there, they get rewarded and defended. Even decades later, we Adventists are constantly reminded of the horrors and failings of Adventists in Rwanda, but when the Americans literally honor a man who boasted of killing over 250,000 children, when he is openly honored as an example forever to our students, and as an ambassador, read it for yourself, as an ambassador for Jesus Healing Ministry, church leaders won't utter even one word of protest. Africans do this? Oh, they are so bad and so wrong and evil. But when the Americans do the exact same thing, oh, that's religious freedom. This man literally boasted of killing over 100 children every seventh-day Sabbath, and he is honored as an example for our students. Do you know what this is? This is absolutely insane. According to Pew Research, a whopping 42% of American Adventists believe that it should be legal to torture and execute unborn children in all or most cases. And while it would be horrific if even 2% supported this, let alone 42%, the good news is that even after over 50 years of propaganda, over half of American Adventists still don't support this evil. And more good news is that many of these 42%, they have no idea what they are talking about. I myself, on multiple occasions, I'm very glad to report this, on multiple occasions have completely switched people's views and understanding simply by sharing with them the facts, the history, the science, and the scripture. Many members have no idea simply because they have never heard anyone in church talk about this problem. There exists a massive need to educate church members. Outside North America, the overwhelming majority of Adventists worldwide do not support this false teaching, and everybody knows that if the world church were ever given a fair opportunity to vote on this, they would reject it. That's why for over 50 years, it has never been voted on. This is important because while historically it was the Americans who brought this into our church, the official public positions allowing the execution of children were approved by, read it for yourself, the Executive Committee at Annual Council, and the official Constitution of the World Church states right here in black and white, the GC Executive Committee is delegated the authority to act on behalf of the GC in session. And the GC Executive Committee does what? It speaks for the world church. And the authority of the Executive Committee is the authority of the what? Of the world church. Geographically, it was the Americans who brought this evil in, but the official position is a global witness that speaks for the world church. Now, most people, when they learn about this, they get very angry and very upset and say, Andrew, this is not fair. You are correct. This is very unfair because this is bearing false witness. This is wrong and needs to be addressed, and that is precisely the reason for my videos. The good news is that we are on the side of history, science, and the scriptures. The Bible is in our favor. Everything is in our favor because it is a prophetic truth that the Adventist church will one day turn from this error, and my goal is to hasten that day. When Ellen White found out that there was a professing Seventh-day Adventist who voiced pro-slavery views, she said that if he did not repent, he must be disfellowshipped. And what was the reason why? Read it for yourself. In order to save the impression which must go out in regard to us as a people, we must let it be known that we have no such ones in our fellowship and will not walk with them in church capacity. So it is an error to believe that we can just sit down and fold our hands and hope that this evil will somehow magically disappear. No, we must bring honor to Christ by actively and aggressively opposing this dangerous falsehood and fanaticism. And by the way, I am certainly not the first person to do this. Many Adventists in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, and beyond have done this. The most well-known and most prolific is Mr. Nick Somoluk. It was largely because of his work that I learned about this problem. You can also see my video interview with him here, and also be sure to check out the interview with Doug Yowell here. Several important observations The people in the Adventist church who defend abortion, they never speak of two things. They never speak of what this means to Christ, and they never speak of the little child. They always speak of themselves, their own fantasies and opinions. They never, ever, ever speak of Jesus or the unborn child. It's always about self. Observation number 2, as has been documented repeatedly, the pro-abortion voices in our church rely upon fear and intimidation. They hope that church members will be too afraid to ask any questions or to challenge them. They don't have any facts, history, science, or scripture, so they rely upon making people afraid. But the reality, which we've seen documented repeatedly now, is that the moment you challenge them, they will run away. These people are very weak and cannot handle being questioned. That's why the number one most common complaint from them about my videos is that I'm too strong. Pro-Life Andrew is too strong. They will accuse and slander constantly, but when they get challenged, they run away. You are dealing with a very cowardly mentality. As I explain in this video here, the Adventist church is not a cult, but there is definitely a cult within the church who believe that brutally and violently killing children is a religious freedom, and they use cult tactics to try to shame people for critical thinking. This is a very anti-intellectual, anti-Bible, anti-science fanaticism. Observation number 3, these people do not care about criticism from Catholics or evangelicals. This is an interesting point. Notice that when Adventists are criticized from the outside, these people don't care. They don't care at all. What they really care about is making sure that Adventist lay members remain confused. They want everyone to be as docile and submissive as possible so that they can continue to perpetuate this fraud. That is why it's so important for actual church members to say something. And the good news, there's a lot of good news, is that they are losing control of the narrative. It's only a matter of time until we experience victory, and I hope to hasten that day. The work that I am doing is very noble and just and godly and right. The arguments are irrefutable. The facts are undeniable. And victory, my friends, is inevitable. So, my friends, please join me in praying that God will help His church. Also, many of the projects and research on this channel was funded entirely by you, my viewers. Several of my interviews with Nick and Dr. Weber and others, speaking at Loma Linda, protesting at the GC, these and many other projects were only made possible through viewer support. So, if you would like to help support this work, please see below for more information. Thank you for watching.